Morning, everybody. I'm Ed Parcaut here with Brian Galke, and we are Aces
Good.
53. How's it going, Brian?
Good.
I can't believe you've been doing nothing. You're sitting at home, sitting on the
Yeah.
couch, drinking beer.
I wish I've gotten to visit my house. That's about it lately. I'm actually at an event. We're in it's called Real News Studios. It's actually really cool, the location we're in. So it's set up with there's like 12 different podcast locations here where people can film everything. So like if I were to turn this, you can see the audio sound guy. Got it set up so you can see yourself over here. So anyway, cool spot to
Where are
get
you
to
at?
sit and do it from in
Where are you at?
Dallas.
Okay.
I was at an event. There's something called Bookable Speakers with Krista. Remember we had her on before?
Uh-huh.
So she had another event yesterday and today, and so I was part of it, and then sitting over here now. So, but
All right. Well, I'm
yeah, they let me
glad.
take over one of the studios.
That was nice of them.
Yeah.
Are you
So,
at an event today, or are you just visiting today?
I'm just watching. There are people who are recording talks, and then they're doing elevator pitches for what's known as a bureau agency. And that is, once you become a speaker, there's a few ways that you can book it. You
We
can
had them
either,
on.
oh yeah, we have them. Yeah,
They should go back and watch one of our episodes on Aces
yeah.
53.
Krista Haberstock is her name. So yeah, so they're here doing headshots, filming things. And yesterday was kind of an interesting thing. Who's your avatar, but not just who's your avatar, but then of course, what is it you say? So what's your history? Something, well, she talked about in the episode, the obvious advantage of what you have, things like that. So anyway, just here learning more fun stuff.
Yeah, I'm
What
trying
about
to.
you?
I'm
I
trying
was
to
gonna say, how'd
recover
the
from
fire walk go?
Saturday. I first of all, I gotta say I'm a vet, so
Yeah.
we have higher standards than what most people have.
Mhm.
So Saturday, the event happened. It was, we had 100 or so people there. 70 other
Mhm.
people didn't show up, just because one thing after another. Things people do.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Yep.
But I mean, it was a great event, had great speakers, and
Yeah.
little issues that you run into. Food didn't start on time because the food people, for something happened, and then running a little. You try to make up the time, and you're not going to please everybody. But so Sunday
Right.
morning, I'm like going, you know, I just feeling, kind of like I did the last year. So let me
Yeah.
explain last year. So April 12th and 13th of last year, Monday morning, I'm like, we had an overall good event, and then I'm driving, and I have the lighter from last year, which I'm not going to grab because I'll go flick, 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 flick through the rest of
Yeah.
the
The
episode.
whole rest of the show.
And I look at it going, and then it hit me. I was like, wow, we actually did something major, a starting of
Yeah.
something. And then this year I was like Sunday going, I just didn't. And then guy that was there who's, been to most of the events, and he's in my Rotary. He wrote this thing on Facebook, and it was, he told me I could turn it into a review for him, right? Because he doesn't
Mhm.
know how to write, so I'm going to read what he wrote. Operation
Yeah.
Firewalk is one of the most powerful experiences I've ever been part of. This event, created by a veteran in our Rotary Club, by the way, that's me. I
Yeah.
was thinking, well, you can't just say who I am. I'm just kidding. Is more than
Right.
just walking on hot coals. It's about saving lives. Now in its second year, the impact continues to grow. The speakers are extraordinary, true heroes. Last year, we heard from a man who survived the Hudson River plane crash and dove in to save others. This year, a 9/11 firefighter who was buried under the towers twice shared his stories alongside a Vietnam vet who battles his memory daily, but still shows up
Wow.
to help others. Walking
Mhm.
on fire symbolizes pushing through fear and pain. If you can do that, you can keep moving forward. That is what this is about. For veterans and first responders, we do this for, and for those of us who support them, it's free for our heroes.
Mhm.
The more this grows, the more lives we change. Spread the word.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very
Now, if
cool.
you could just write that well, he did out pretty good. I just,
Yeah.
but
Put
I
in
was like, I read
ChatGPT.
that, and I was like, wow, a little different than what I was thinking, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, I mean, and everybody's behind it. And then I got something else to tell you off air
Yeah.
about it. Don't need everybody to know. But I mean,
I'll call you
overall,
when I'm driving home later. Yeah.
you just stay on here for a second more.
Yeah.
But it
Wow.
was a great, overall event. And the question is how we grow from here. And that's what the plan is. And you got to remember, these things don't take off like majorly.
Right.
I mean, it's not like a mastermind where you have 40 people show up and the same 40 people come. We're talking about, trying to grow this thing even bigger. Our, first year we did over 150 people plus. We don't know exact numbers. This year we're around 100 and something. We don't know exact numbers because here's one of the issues. One of the registration pages flew off the table because wind blew in and they could never find it again. It was the weirdest thing. Like somebody picked it up and threw it away because they thought it was just trash, So we don't, what are you going to do? We do have all the signed disclosures, but not everybody who was there signed a disclosure about the walk in the fire and everything else because not everybody walked the fire. So
I gotcha.
Yeah. But there you go.
Yeah.
But, so overall, no, it was, of course, everybody said it was a great event. I'm just very picky on how I want things to be. So,
but that's good though, because that's what sets the standard for it. So that's not too shabby.
So, I mean, to put this is second year of it and where we're at, now it's all about what are we going to do next and where, how are we going to grow it? Do we do the same time of the year? Where do we move it closer to Veterans Day? What do we do?
Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, like you said, all little questions have, because wasn't last year, it was 2 days. This time you condense it down to one.
Yeah, and we will
Just
never
keep making a little
event. Yeah.
Yeah. So little changes.
And we're going to narrow it down even more to only a couple hours. Because that's another thing. Not a lot of people want to sit and hear from multiple people constant. They just want to come for the event and get connected and stuff like that. That's so the question
really network, learn, go.
And so I was the MC this year, and that's what messed me up.
Because
I'm MC it, and I'm not talking to people like I did last year. So Ralph, my counterpart, he's talking to everybody, and he's like, "Oh, it was a great event," and I'm thinking, okay, I have no idea because I didn't have the time to speak to everybody because I was overseeing you starting on time, what's your time period, that whole thing, and you got an hour in questions. And everybody stuck to what I told them. So that worked out really well. Us controlling it this year worked really well. Where last year we had somebody else handle it and we're like, never again. And, there's going to be things you can't control and you have to roll with it. But one of I think the most important things is when you're going through this stuff, tell the people in the audience what's going on, whether or not you think it's right or not.
No, that's kind of ironic you said that. When I was speaking in Vegas last week, for some reason, when I saved the slideshow, it was auto advancing. And so I kept having to go backwards, and we just called it out because after the first few times, it either looked like I didn't know how to control the clicker or what. It was like, no, it was an issue. And so we just called it out, and then you're able to address and fix the issue. That's the nice thing. So when things happen, it's like anything else, there's going to be things that go awry, but the sooner you can point it out, the less people focus on it. It actually has the opposite. The longer you ignore it, the more people pay attention. Like we're talking about, like if you'd had your lighter and you were just clicking and clicking, if I said, hey, let's do the lighter, then people stop. But you do. Along the lines of you guys making major changes and everything here, that's one of the themes of yesterday was, are you constantly changing your content? Are you constantly updating your speeches? Are you constantly updating your website? And I do think that's something we should probably get, and maybe there's a guy that was here yesterday. I'll see if we can get him on, of reviewing your websites. You and I talked about this. Like when I first had my website done, I didn't have it touched again for years. Like, okay, I got a website. But depending on what you're wanting to do, now you, especially with your pod, and you're using a combination of AI and then the pod to help make your websites come to life, people need to go back and look at what do they have, like just simple stuff. First off, does it have the right year at the bottom? But does it have updated pictures of you? Is it relevant content? And if people aren't having I just got access to a pro version of Perplexity yesterday. I was like, go look at my entire website. Tell me what's wrong with it. And it came back with some awesome feedback, things I need to go and fix and change.
What's Perplexity?
Perplexity. Sorry, Google's version of the AI of ChatGPT. Like it's like ChatGPT on steroids. So it'd be the equivalent of the $200 a month ChatGPT.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
but I don't think, do they even have the 200 anymore because of the other things now included in your $20 a month?
That I don't know.
Yeah.
I know several people we know, like Heather Wagenhall. She signed up for it, but I haven't been on the calls the last 2 or 3 weeks to talk to her because
But
she's in
back
a different mastermind I'm in.
and back to that. All right. So
Yeah,
I've been doing so much and creating and I focused on the Helping the Brave, the veterans benefit site. And then I was the Firewalk and all this, but I had
right.
created Pod Veteran, which is my, um, course and everything else for people to get on podcasting, right? Because it was a
Right.
play on both words that I'm a veteran of the industry and I'm an actual veteran, and I had it all ready to go, and then I'm like, that was almost a month ago. It's
Hmm.
just been sitting there, and now I have to go back through and figure out, okay, because I've learned to, whatever I create the first page, save as a Word document, then save that as a PDF, put in order, have it ready. So when I go to upload to the pod, it's in order and everything else. I'm
Hmm.
now having to go back through and relearn what I had done a month ago. You
Yeah.
follow what I'm getting at? And so what I'm
Yeah.
focus on one task, put that task in, then go to the next one. And
Right.
don't get sidetracked. I got sidetracked. I was supposed to record my courses and certain things, but I had so much going on.
Hmm.
So much that one of the things at the event I was at, I've been saying this for years, that because when I was Rotary, I had a guy come over and he was talking about there's a boot camp in, we need a boot camp out, but they're never going to
Yeah.
create a boot camp out. And I was thinking about what you can do. And Ralph said yesterday to me, which I already had this in the works. He's like, we need to create a site that is a boot camp out and does this, the 6 things that veterans have an issue with, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you fucking son
Yeah.
of a bitch. Because I already created it. It's called SysOps,
Gotcha.
CivOps
DevOps.
Academy, so Civilian Operation Academy. You follow me?
Hmm.
And yeah, and so I had it all, and was uploaded to the pod to have them start building it out. And then I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I got to get my pod veteran, which is the freaking important course because I've helped so many people just recently with their podcasts.
Right.
And not, and
Well,
you know,
and that.
go ahead.
Oh, no, fish. I'll jump in a
I was
second.
gonna say, and I have, there are people I know here locally, and I'm like, that's like almost $5,000 what I helped you with, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, help them create their
That's.
logo, help them create their whole thing about what's their perfect avatar, what they're planning on doing, the name of it, the whole 9 yards, where
Yeah.
I came up with a mic protocol, mission, identify, and I'll get through the whole thing later but I won't give it all away yet. But
Right.
it's just a mic protocol that has to do with, it's an acronym, and that's
Hmm.
how to get that thing going through and making sure. And I practice on these few people. I'm like, wow, that really works.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, and that's what I was going to say earlier. It seemed like up until this last year, people were like, oh, podcasts are kind of done, they're over with. And people saw all the things that happened with the election and that where people are going. Now I'm seeing a resurgence of people wanting to get back into podcasts. But back to your metric, they say people don't make it past the 10th one ever. But it's interesting because there are a lot of people who are launching and they're hitting the top 100, the top whatever. We haven't had Dana Grant on yet, but we'll have to have her on. She just launched her podcast. I think she did like 23 episodes, but she just broke into the top 20 of podcasts. So it's, if you're
Top 20
consistent,
total of all podcasts, or top 20 of her genre, top
her
20 of,
genre, like business talk, I think. I don't know. Let me see what she
well,
texted me
again, it
yesterday.
has to do with knowing your niche, right? Do you have the niche?
Right. Yeah.
Because my Andrew Edison's in the top 1% of all podcasts worldwide. But that's not a brag. That's just, it takes time. I interviewed a guy. I don't know if we talked since then, but he's got 1.5 million downloads a month, and it took him
Really?
9 years to get there. But his is a
Yeah.
daily podcast, history daily podcast. And it's
Wow.
not one of these. It's a
Mhm.
15-minute. He talks the whole time through, he writes the whole thing up, he reads it, he puts it through, and people listen
Sure.
to the different things, what it is, like number stations. What are a number station? Like that kind of stuff. And he goes, they just eat it up. He's got 1,000+ episodes now.
Yeah. All
And
just
he goes,
consistency, right?
well, it's consistent. And he's like, with the daily podcast, you get there faster. It's about having those
Yeah.
numbers. Once you get those numbers, people find you and they start picking it up. But he makes money
Mhm.
off the advertising, and it's just him 15 minutes a
Yeah.
day, and then does the
Hey.
thing, and then a couple of times a week he replays something from a long time ago because people don't even remember.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. You can do that as often as you
Especially,
want once you have that many episodes.
well, especially being a history podcast. It's not like it's one of these that's, his is evergreen. It's, what are you looking for?
Right.
What do you want to know? I always say,
Yeah.
if you're going to start a podcast these days, start a daily podcast. Do not start,
Mhm.
because you're going to learn more faster, and it doesn't have to be an interview show, just like he proved, and it doesn't have to be 30 minutes. He's like, people like the quick 15-minute stuff they can read a day, listen to a day, and be
Well,
done with.
because as people use more and more TikTok and Instagram and the scroll, people don't want to sit for longer episodes. I mean, of all the podcasts that are out there, I think I listened to Brad's Dropping Bombs. I'll listen, like, he had a good one with Dave Asprey. I listened to the whole thing while I was working out the other day. I listened to Diary of a CEO. But if they're longer ones, I usually won't listen. I look at it and I go, oh, okay, 20, 30 minutes. Okay, cool. They start going over an hour and I'm like, yeah, what errands am I running today that I can maybe knock that out versus an Audible book? So it's smart to do this for 15 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, but I listen to Alex Hormozzi's who are like 45 minutes to an hour, because I go on a
Yeah.
walk and stuff. But Joe Rogan, no,
Yeah.
there's I just don't have the time.
Yeah.
But he doesn't need us. He
But
made enough money already. So
oh, that's all. Well, and usually his stuff is so cut up anyway. It's kind of like you can read the headlines because people will watch all those, and then they cut out little segments of his and then share it. So I feel like I kind of am watching his show through proxy with
have you
everything.
seen the new the baby podcast?
No.
So they've taken Joe Rogan and the other guy, what's his name, and they have babies talking like them.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I just saw it today on
Yeah.
TikTok this morning, drinking my
That's
coffee,
funny.
scrolling through. I was like, yeah, that's hilarious.
I have not seen that. That is pretty funny though.
That's
So
what I saw today.
yeah. Anyway, so you're recovering. I'm still going. So I went to that event in Austin, was there Saturday through Monday, spoke Monday morning, hung out for a little bit. Oh, got to meet Dan Martell, if you know who he is. Just in passing, like, hey, Dan, what are you doing here? Talked to him for a few minutes, got a picture with him, then flew to Vegas, attended Tamara's event. That went Tuesday. I was a judge, or no, Tuesday I was on an AI panel. Wednesday I spoke. Then Wednesday night I was on a podcast judging panel. So it was just packed. And then flew home Thursday, hung out with Kiddo. Then Friday I spoke at Ryan Stuman's event with Neil Dingra and Brian Covey, a guy I've never heard of named Carlton Dennis. Man, the guy is a freaking genius when it comes to tax strategies. You have to be making at least 300,000 to work with him, I think was like his barrier to entry. But he went over all the different ways people can write things off, and he gave celebrity examples. Brian Covey talked about a lot of what we do, and that is you have to be present now, because with AI and automation coming in, if you're not working on your people skills and everything else, you're going to be left behind. Naturally, with mine, that was followed up with that, and we weren't supposed to be in order that way, but it worked out, and that was really good. And that morning, Neil Dingra talked about posting consistency, um, content, what to put out there, what's working for him. And he didn't know the story, but it's kind of cool. I was on August 9th of 2022. He came on to a mastermind I was in, and he had just lost his entire following because he paid a company to manage it. They bought a bunch of bots and stuff like that and just screwed it all up. So he started over, and he was just showing us how he was making slow, steady progress. Well, at that time, I had like 800 followers, maybe 1,200 followers. But it gave me hope of, oh, okay, well, here's somebody who's willing to start from scratch versus you see everybody else who's way up here in millions of followers or whatever. And so it was kind of a cool full circle moment to be back in the room with a guy that inspired me to start posting consistently on social media. And I got a bigger following than he does. But it was fun to be in the room with him.
Yeah, but again, it depends on what you're talking about, and that's
Right.
that, and it's consistency. My problem is people I want to be doing my stuff. I'm too busy having them do other stuff right now. And
Yes.
but that's not going to be that way in about 2 weeks,
Good.
because I'll be caught up on helping the Brave site will be finished. The new Operation Firewalk site for 2026 will be finalized, and all the other stuff.
Right.
So I created communities inside of the Operation Firewalk: Brave Walkers, which is people after you walked on fire, and then the Fire
Sure.
Keepers, which is the people who help support the event. And actually do the volunteer. And what I'm doing is I'm making coins to give each
Mhm.
one of them a year later.
Cool.
If you've been in it for a year, you get this coin. Yeah, it's pretty cool coins. Of course, my assistant created it, Chad.
Yeah. I named mine Maeve, and I gave her a British lady's voice. So
Yeah.
that's my new chat GPT or
Well, here's what I recommend. So for my event, we were going to have an after action report. So I went to Chat GPT and I created that, and I said I'm just going to be dropping stuff in here, and I used my voice the whole time for it to be able to create one, and it was beautiful. Could not have done it any other way. And now after that, so then I told all my team, do the same thing, send it to me, and I'll compile them, and we'll sit down and look at them. But then I get all these tasks back from my VAs to look at the stuff I've created, and for me to type stuff and whatever, I'm like, crazy. Let me see if I can do the same thing. And then it was uploaded, and boom, done. And that's exactly.
yeah.
I would recommend that you use Chat GPT. That kind of the way that you use that plane. What was that thing called? That you have
The Plod.
Plod,
Yeah,
but you don't
Plod.
have to have the Plod to do the same thing. You can use Chat GPT. Just hit the little mic button, and as people are talking, it'll record everybody.
I took my Plod. I bought it like 4 or 5 months ago after Brian Bogert showed it to me, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna get it." And I finally unboxed it, and I freaking left it at home. So all three of the talks that I did, I forgot to carry it with me. I'm like, "Oh, that's a great investment." That all I've done is charged it so far.
Yeah, but I would just tell you, just have your phone on stage with you, right?
I do, but I think I'm gonna use the Plod and then go back through
I
it. I
know, but
like what you were saying. That
when you forget
yes,
it, just use Chat
yeah,
GPT.
true, but I don't want it to respond back when I'm speaking. That
It
will be
won't,
the challenge with. Oh well,
because if you hit the microphone, it's going to record everything you're saying. I don't know
right.
how
What
long
happens when you pause?
it does. It just waits.
It just
And
waits. Okay.
what I do is then I when I'm done talking, then I'll hit the arrow, and it puts it in, and then
Mhm.
upload it, and then I hit the mic again and keep going. So
Gotcha.
I
Makes
just don't know
sense.
how long it will record what you're talking about. I've not tried that. I've
That's what I'm wondering. So if I'm giving a 60-minute talk, I just don't want it to cut me off. But I'll play with it and see.
I don't
Because I
think
got
it does not respond back to you unless it's not question and answer. It's not the other thing that's over here. If I say her name, she's going to start talking
yeah,
back to me.
right. Well, when I talked to Maeve, she's like, okay. Every once in a while she'll go, oh, is that it? And I'm like, what? And I forgot I was doing something. So I'll
Um,
figure that part out.
well,
Um,
maybe, yeah. Well, then tell it, don't respond back.
yeah. I'm just saying this will be a dictation for the next 60 minutes. Just capture it.
Well, or ask
Figure
how
something out.
long will you take a dictation for with pauses?
Right.
Yeah. I'm just saying that it's an easy way when you forget, but I don't think people have used it that way. I was a
Correct.
type, I hate typing. That's why I have my computer where I can use a damn keyboard at,
Yeah.
I don't want to use the phone. So,
Yeah.
all
All right.
right,
Well, hey, I'm
that's
gonna get kicked out of this conference room here in a second. So
oh,
yeah.
all right, I'm actually done, but okay. Why don't you take us out, Mister who hasn't been here?
All right. Hey, everybody. Thank you again for joining Ed Parcaut and myself on Aces53. We're here on Tuesdays and Thursdays at noon Central, 10 a.m. Pacific. So usually on Tuesdays, it's just Ed and I, like today, where we're bantering about something back and forth. And on Thursdays, we try and bring in what we call a joker. That is somebody with a special skill or talent that we want to benefit from and believe will bring benefit to you at the exact same time. If you happen to be one of those who has information you want to share, drop that in our line and we'll see if we can bring you on as one of our guests. So, as always, Ed, thank you for being here. And for everybody else, have a great day.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks, Brian, for being here. Almost said some.